welcome to the Deal Finder Corner. This is your weekly property talk show brought to you by Property Filter, hosted by myself, Guillaume Black, your favorite Frenchman. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Property Filter. It's the UK's highest rated platform to find deals, and we are on a mission to empower our property investor and deal sourcing members to find yet another 1,000 deals this year, like they did last year, thanks to the Property Filter blueprint. And the purpose with your Deal Finder Corner is to give you more and the best of the available resources by inviting expert guests who will share with you the latest and most current strategies and tactics, as well as secrets about what works right now in terms of finding and making deals and the realities of systemizing and running a high-performance business in property. It really is my pleasure to introduce to you all to my very good friend, and have a conversation with my very good friend, James Rogers. So James started his property career as a painter and decorator before retraining as a plumber and heating engineer. And whilst on the tools, he recognized the potential of property investing. So he started raising private finance and started flipping properties, then building a successful property portfolio, now branching out in mortgage brokering. And as an innovative entrepreneur, he also founded Property and Poppadoms, the fastest growing property networking event in the UK, where he continues to inspire and connect professionals across the industry. So today we'll talk a bit about your background, what led you here today. We'll talk about the ups and downs of property and life, and tell me if there's anything off limits. We'll talk about how we met and became friends. I think there's some funny stories there. And we'll talk about overcoming challenges and how growth can take you out of dark places. We'll talk about values, your ultimate secret to success, which we unlocked last year, I remember. It was quite interesting. Innovation and your future plans for the meetings and other things. I'm very much looking forward to having a chat with you today, mate, and think of it as really a podcast with a friendly audience. And that's it. So before we get started, Tim, please give a massive Property Filter virtual welcome to Mr. James Rogers. Here we go. And let's crack on. So do you want to tell our Property Filter members and a little bit about what was the start looking like for you, or you started and got into property, and what's the story there?
Yes, so I think we'll go a little bit further back than that into school. So school, really enjoyed the social aspect of school, but just didn't get on with the academic side of school. It didn't fit for me. I didn't get on with it. I didn't feel inspired by it. So I pretty much left school, or at least I think at best started attending on a part-time basis from about 14 years old. I have no, and this isn't something I'm proud of, by the way, but I have no formal sort of educational qualifications. I didn't fit in that box. So what I did do was I got a job on a building site. So
how old were you when you started?
I was
working?
16 when I officially started there, but I was doing bits and pieces sort of. So I officially started when I was 16 as a painter and decorator. So I did that. We basically did what's called house bashing. So new build site, sort of you move from plot to plot to plot. It was just very repetitive. So it was Maggie walls, white ceilings, white gloss work. And we did that around sort of various different sites. Was that down in Devon? Was it? Yes, that was down in Devon. So it taught me a lot, actually, in terms of speed, because all the other guys, they were on price. And if you held them up, then you were costing them money. And it was quite a brutal place, building sites in the mid-90s. It wasn't so encouraging. It was quite ruthless back then. So if you were a bit gobby, or you didn't get on with your work, then you really sort of got dealt with. But that's what it was, and I still think that sort of carved out a big part of me, that sort of get stuff done. Sort of consider those around you as well, because those guys, they had families, so you wanted them to sort of earn their money too, and you wanted to sort of earn your money as well. But I was only on £45 a week. Had a huge pay rise in year 2 to £55 a week, but that was the apprenticeship scheme back then. But you worked hard for your money. I mean, you really, really did, because if you didn't work hard, you were, like I say, you were off. So that was was a great sort of introduction to site work. And actually, I didn't realise back then, but it was sort of giving me a lot of learnings and a lot of education around building sites and sort of how to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So a lot of the like tough situation, I find for myself. So my first job, I found myself moaning that I was, overqualified for the job and things like that. And then you don't realize, but you just compound lots of learning, and you don't have the insights when it's tough, and you think you're worth more, and then. And it's like people are telling me, asking me about like AI and things, and the kids in university. We talked about this at Property and Poppadom yesterday night, actually, with some of the guys there. It's like, yeah, well, all the kids, they learn how to cheat and write their dissertation, but then they'll be idiots. So I think there's a lot to be said about maybe teaching the value of work for what it teaches you. And I think that's quite interesting. Your experience here, it just illustrates that quite well, and I can relate to this on like quite a few levels. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. It was it sort of taught you to work fast, but also hard, but and in the right way. So you knew how to cut the corners, but still to get the job done correctly. So you earned the money, but because there was all this you can do it the college way, and they sort of teach you the right way to do it. But if you do it the right way, you wouldn't earn any money in the real world.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily that in the real world it's the wrong way. It's right, but it's quick, and you'll be able to earn money and earn a living.
Okay. And so from there, did you do this for a few years?
Yeah, did this for a few years. Then I went. I actually sort of came away from that, and I did door-to-door sales. So completely came away from sort of site work. I've always felt that I've been sort of fairly good with people. Not everybody, of course, but generally fairly good with people.
Yeah.
So I was doing knocking on door to door just for a bit of a change, selling gas and electric, and this was commission only. And I actually did very, very well doing that as well. We did that all around the country. I did quite a bit of a stint in Swansea. So they weren't, all of them weren't very welcoming to a happy Englishman, but some were. And I'd sort of generally got a good few sales under my belt, and I had a little team around me as well that I trained and whatnot. So I did that for a little bit, enjoyed it, but sort of knew that wasn't what I was going to be doing forever. Came back from that, and then sort of went back to decorating for a little bit, and then retrained as a plumbing and heating engineer.
Okay. And at which point did you have sort of a realization that you wanted maybe to work for yourself or do property yourself? Or how long did you do plumbing and engineering for?
I mean, I was always pretty much, because the commission only sort of gas and electric door-to-door stuff, that was, you were self-employed. So I've pretty much been self-employed from about the age of 20. I was sort of out doing my own jobs before that with the decorating, so private jobs, weekend work, because 45 quid a week and 55 quid a week just didn't cut it. So like you'd be out picking up your own private jobs. So I've always sort of been self-employed. I think when I realised that I really, really, really wanted to get into properties was when I went back into decorating. So I was doing a lot of decorating for a high-end joinery company. So they would sort of go in and maybe fit some windows or something, and they would always get asked, a decorator. So I would sort of follow up and go into these houses, and they were absolutely just, extravagant. And very much not what I was used to. And I would speak to the owners of the properties and just sort of build a rapport with them. Just naturally, I'd like speaking to people, sort of like finding out a bit about them. And quite a lot of them were in property. So I thought, well, I know what I want to do. I don't want to be painting your house. I want somebody like me painting, a house that like this that I live in. So I didn't sort of quite know how to do it or what to do at that point, but I sort of knew that I was going to go into property at some point. So back then, because it was all site work was sort of what I was used to, in my mind, I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get sort of more qualifications under my belt that will then enable me to sort of do more of the work, and I can get into property that way. So I retrained as a plumbing and heating engineer. I was a time-served apprentice, again, self-employed. So I was having to do lots of bits because they didn't need me full time. I'd just be called in for big jobs, and I sort of did my college course and college work. And then I sort of started to look, and by this time I'd moved up to Stoke-on-Trent, by the way, so I should probably say that, because I hadn't been exposed to sort of people like yourself, Guillaume, or networking events or anything like that, and I didn't know of any of these sort of strategies or different ways around it. I just thought, you're on the tools, you can do more of the work, you can keep the costs down, and you'll be able to buy property and sort of carry on like that. So I sort of finished my plumbing and heating sort of apprenticeship. And I think about a year or so after that, my boss at the time, he was moving to Australia. He said, I'm selling up and moving to Australia. So I was I didn't really know what to do. And I'd been sort of toying with the idea of getting into property. I'd been looking at stuff through sort of auction catalogues, stuff like that. And I thought, right, now's the time. So I had a friend in Devon, and I didn't know any of the terminologies or anything at that point. It was just, he's got money, the property here is cheap. I said, look, you want to come up here and you want to have a look at these properties? They're cheap. I can sort of find them. I didn't even, sourcing. I just said, I can find the projects. There was no understanding of any of that sort of side of the fence. It was just very sort of basic and rudimentary, where I would find the project, he would put the cash in, and I'd get paid for the work, and then we go 50-50 on the profit. So I went about finding a project. We got our first one. We bought it through auction.
Which year was that, mate? Your first project?
In Stoke-on-Trent.
Which year?
Which year? Sorry, it was 2011. Okay. So in 2011, found the first sort of project through auction, and so I knew that if I get it for this price, I know the works are going to cost this, and I know it will sell for this. Or I'm confident that it would sell for that GDV. So we got it, we secured it, did the works went brilliant, everything went brilliant, absolute curveball. It was in quite a rough area up here. Somebody got stabbed to death outside the front door. So that was the first project I did. So that I had to phone, again, my friend or investor at that point and have a conversation with him about that. And of course, horrendous circumstances. It was a racially motivated attack, disgusting act of violence, which again led to somebody passing away. And we then sort of the follow-on situation with that, we of course struggled to sell that property because we had to sort of respectfully step back and let people grieve properly and correctly, and then put it on the market sort of some months down the line when we felt it was a respectful amount of time had passed, and the local community had sort of managed to grieve sufficiently for the young man.
Well, that's quite something. And you went on to do a few other projects on the same model, or flipping, or?
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of that project, I'd actually walked away with nothing because of how the money
the time
then and whatnot. But that was it. We couldn't help what happened, and we were just happy that we broke even, and that was that with the situation. But then I went on to do quite a few more projects. Always bought through auction, always sold on. And
how long have you been doing this for? Like 3, 4, 5 years?
Or? That for till 2017, 2018, I think, something like that. So I thought at that point that I was sort of in property, and I was sort of picking up little jobs on the tools, doing this, doing that, and it wasn't really that organized in terms of a plan.
And you went to, I think you did Simon's Mastermind, didn't you?
Yes. So around about 2017, I sort of started researching sort of retaining the properties, and then I found HMOs, because in my mind a HMO was the sort of student, like the old style grubby student accommodation that we used to go and have parties back above just up the road from the local sort of student pub. So I then came across these sort of very opulent properties and high cash flowing strategies, and I went down a rabbit hole with it, and I found the Property Investors Network. So And that was the very first networking event I ever went to. And I had absolutely convinced myself that people like me should not be at a networking event. You're uneducated, you're on the tools, they're highly educated, highly successful people. And I absolutely convinced myself that a networking event was not the place for me. But how wrong I was. So I went to the first networking event, the Stoke-on-Trent Property Networking event. I think that was in the February of 2018. By May, I was on the mastermind. And then things really started to sort of open up for me because I'd opened my mind up to other opportunities, immerse myself around other sorts of people and other types of people. And then that's when things really started to snowball for me. And I really do owe the Property Investors Network a lot.
Right. And how was the growth? What was the growth like? What did it look like? Is it? Or
Well,
would you do?
I went from doing just flips through auction up until that point to going on mastermind. I think within my mastermind year, I did a sui generis HMO conversion. I did a couple of flips. I did a new build projects. We built 2-3 bed semis. What else? I did a no money in deal, buy refurb refinance in those 12 months.
Yeah, did quite well, yeah. And yeah, then what happened next? Yeah, tell me anything that's off limits, James. As well.
Yeah. So basically, professionally, things were very, very good. As you can see, I was sort of doing all these projects. They were all making money, and they were genuinely making money. They were sort of very, very good projects, and I had, in terms of like what I was doing, it might seem that I was bouncing around a lot in terms of doing a new build project, HMO, and all the rest of it. But I knew that that will make money, that will cost this to do. I know that give or take, we'll get that for it. And by and large, we did. I mean, I broke the ceiling price for a HMO project we'd done in an area that I was told you shouldn't invest in. And I just thought, well, why wouldn't I invest here? It's a great location, walking distance to all the sort of major employers and whatnot. I thought it was a brilliant place to invest. But
there's two things here. So there's your local knowledge, so you knew the area, not because you looked for an area to go and invest, but you knew the area because you were there.
Absolutely. But historically, yes, it was a bad area. And it's I've gone sort of veered away from your question a little bit, and I'll come back to that in a second. But it was, I find that a lot of people, they love to repeat what they hear rather than come into their own informed decision. Now, logic told me if I wasn't in this area and I went into this area, so you've got Bet365 and sort of the Festival Park trading estate in Stoke-on-Trent, and that's, they've got some big employers down there. They've got Vodafone, they've got Bet365, huge employers locally. You can walk to there from the place that I bought. They were huge houses, high ceilings, easy to get services in and out, easy to put en suites in all the rooms, and still have huge rooms left there. If you went to the other side of that trading park, the prices skyrocketed. So I bought, I think it was, I can't remember this. I paid 110 grand for a 200 meter squared property. I think it was huge place, 3 floors, massive. But again, so I've sort of come back to your question because I do like to go off piste a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so professionally, very, very good. Personally, not so good. So my relationship was failing with my wife. My son had a nervous breakdown. I had got diagnosed with COPD because I get breathing issues, sort of quite significant ones. From the decorating and the site work just wasn't doing me any good. So the doctor was sort of saying, look, you're in and out of hospital. You need to think about sort of going into something else. We had family deaths. I had a court battle with my ex-wife about relocating my children. I had a very, very acrimonious divorce, which ended up in me losing everything. And it was a really, really, really tough few years, but I sort of thought that even though I'm having a personally a very, very tough time, I can still do some sort of good elsewhere, and I can still do positive things. And I suppose that's a good follow on to all the marathons and sort of how we properly
Yeah.
met
So
and got.
that's pretty much the period where we met. I think we met,
Yes,
was it the pin dinner 3 years ago,
yes.
2020, 2021 or something?
Yeah, it was at the pin dinner, and obviously Guillaume's a lovely chap, and he's very welcoming, and he's very intelligent, he's very charismatic. I sound like I'm chatting him up a bit, don't I? Here,
Yeah,
but
yeah, go on, yeah, don't.
but yeah, so we had a good laugh. We got on very well, and I had I was seeing a counsellor at the time because I was really sort of struggling to sort of place things in my mind, and everything was getting a little bit on top of me. And the counsellor is a lovely gentleman, and I said, look, I'd like to sort of repay you somehow. I'd like to. I mean, have you got a charity that you would sort of want me to raise some money for? And he said, well, you go and sort of speak to this woman. Her son is very, very poorly, and he was a young man locally called Georgie, who had a
Yeah.
rare form of bone cancer. So the NHS had sort of said, look, we can't give you any more treatment. And his mum sort of really, well, his mum and his dad are very sort of inspiring people. They wouldn't let that rest. They went out and they researched private treatment. So they did find a place in Thailand, but obviously that's not funded on the NHS. So they had to go about raising funds for it. So I met up with them, and I sort of said that I'd like to raise some money for you because the gentleman had sort of pointed me your way. And I said, I'm going to run 5 marathons in 14 weeks, and then I'm going to run a 70-mile ultra marathon to finish. And they said, oh, so you're a runner then? I said, no, not really. I think I've run about 3 miles maximum before. So I started training. This was in the November time. I think this was November 2021. I did 6 weeks. Then I got COVID. Then I got pleurisy off the back of the COVID. And I got to the end of January, and that was when the first marathon was. So obviously I've got no personal link apart from, I mean, a very brief conversation with these people. And I thought, well, I can't let them down. So I've got to do this marathon. So I did the marathon pretty much on no training. And then that was it. That was started. So I did one at the end of February. I did 2 within 8 days between March and April. So it was like the bank holiday weekend or the Easter weekend or something. So I did one weekend and one the next weekend, 8 days apart. But I got really, really injured. So
No shit.
I
But
didn't.
I remember because we met at that time. Is it okay to share like why we met in person, like for the first time we met?
Yeah, of course.
So because you had like you were still doing some property stuff at the time, and of course, you know, I was like property filter was like a new thing. I think we had like 10 members or something. And then James was this crazy guy who say, look, I'm in the middle of this very you know, horrendous and toxic divorce. You know, I can't be seen doing property things because she's going to take everything from me. So I can't, you know, you can't invoice me a thing that says property thingy, you know. So what I'll do, I'll put some cash in an envelope, you know, and then I'll come and see you in Birmingham, and I'll get a year worth of property filter. I was like, this man is nuts. So of course I took the meeting, and that was quite the start of a relationship. And then we hooked quite, you know, quite well from there. And then I was, you know, not as aggressively as you, but starting to do a bit of running from a standing still as well. And yeah, we find some commonality, and I think it's just being attracted by beautiful souls, and you know, like you're such a nice guy. And then that was kind of how we started to be friends. And the both of us were nobodies, you know, at the time, you know, so that was quite interesting.
No, it was good, and it's one of those situations where, and I'm sure we've all had it. We meet somebody and we go, "They're going to be my mate,"
Mm-mm.
and that was it. And it was a bromance from the.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And then so yeah, and then I was doing a bit of running. You did some crazy shit running, and and then that was kind of how it started. Yeah, we were talking about this, like sort of pushing each other a bit.
Yeah. I mean, Guillaume did he trained properly,
Yeah.
He managed to sort of do a fantastic time in the marathon that he had done. But because I went all or nothing, which is very me,
Yeah.
I was sort of taking 2.5 weeks to get over the last marathon. And then I'm like, oh no, the next one's here. I've got to do that. So it was, yeah, it was very difficult for me. And I got a horrendous IT band injury.
You,
And
you
I
want to,
didn't
do you want
even
to
know
talk
you
about
had.
the, yeah, you want to talk about the ultra marathon, the Carlisle to Newcastle run?
Yes, so I finished all the marathons. I did the 5 marathons, and I was in absolute agony, to be completely honest. So then 4 weeks after that, I'd convinced Guillaume and Cam to crew for me on an ultra marathon. So the ultra marathon was 70 miles in a day, starting in Carlisle, running sort of the breadth of the country, and finishing in Newcastle upon Tyne. So I started that one, and I again was in agony from the first step, and it was just an absolute maul from start to finish. Or no, I didn't quite finish it because I got to 44 miles, and the paramedics were saying, "Look, call it a day. You're too
Yeah.
injured." But I wanted to keep going because I felt like I was letting
Yeah.
the family down that I was raising the money for. So Guillaume very kindly said, "Look, I'll walk the rest of it with you." But at one point, I was just delirious with pain, and I just sort of had my hand on his shoulder, and he was guiding me up all these country lanes, just trying to get me to the finish. And I got to 60 miles, and they said, "Look, you're not going to reach cut-off points anyway, so you're best to call it a day."
Yeah.
But we ended up raising over £10,000 for the young lad, and that sort of contributed towards the funding, which saved his life.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, I look back at it with fond memories, but at the time it was horrendous. I hated it. I like this non-sleep and things. And I don't know how I dragged my wife into this, but yeah, fair play to her, you know. Yeah, you were the embodiment of agony, you know, like at the end of it. Like I've never been so much suffering on someone's face, like that. And
Yeah.
the whole body, like. So then you got into, because you couldn't really be on sites anymore, so the doctors were telling you to go and find more of an office job type thing. So you got into finance,
Yes.
brokering and things like that.
Yeah, so the brokerage that I was using at the time, they said, "Oh, look, we think you'd be pretty good at this. You've obviously got a good understanding of what makes a good project.
Yeah.
You got an all right understanding of build work and stuff like."
Can we talk about this, James? Like, how important is it for, for one to work with a broker that understands property investing, for a broker to be investing themselves, or having a like a kind of a hands-on experience, like what are like.
Yeah, hugely important, because you understand, you can put yourself in your client's shoes. There's been a hold up. This is costing a bit more. This hasn't quite worked out as I wanted it to. And then you can then package that to the lender. So do we need to organize an extension for you? This is what happens. But then I can say, look, I know because I was on the tool, so I understand that they've come across an unforeseen. So we might need to organise an extension for them, but I can then go into the granular detail about what that looks like and why this isn't the client's fault. So it's hugely, for me, it's hugely important that not necessarily that the broker's been on the tools or anything, but the broker understands the client and
Mhm.
what they're going through and their needs and their wants. And it would be absolutely a plus for me if the broker was an investor as well.
Mhm. And so is there, like, from your experience of brokering deals, finance, different structure, are there any like particular structure that were particularly creative or involved maybe non-traditional lenders or things like that, or
I mean,
anything?
yeah, as we know, every deal's different, and every sort of deal has its little quirks. But I mean, we, as an example of something a little bit quirky, we recently gave a couple of options to a flat that was on a short lease. So it was a flat that was on a short lease. I believe the purchase price was about 600, and I think the lease extension was about 665. But it was in a very, very prime location. So what we were able to do,
In Stoke-on-Trent, right?
no, you could buy Stoke-on-Trent for that. So we were able to offer two options creatively. So one was funding 100% of the purchase price, because we could very clearly display that the uplift was there. So in terms of risk to the lender, they were very comfortable with providing that facility. And we also offered another option where we funded 60% of the purchase price, so that was net, and then there was a further tranche of, I believe it was about 700, was it 700? No, 550 to go towards the lease extension cost. And there's certainly definite ways that you can be flexible and you can sort of get things funded. If it's just a normal sort of run of the mill thing, then expect a normal run of the mill situation with funding. But if you can sort of display that something's got quite a clear uplift, then we can certainly look at different options for you.
Yeah, I know you've introduced people with like family offices. There's been all sorts of like equity deals and things you guys do, and it's quite interesting and creative. Is there like a typical onboarding? Like if you're brand new to property, these are the steps. If you are more experienced, these are the steps. If you have a particular needs, or I don't know.
In terms of what are the steps, I suppose the steps that we need to follow in terms of what we need from you guys is pretty similar. So we need, we need to know who you are. We need proof of address. We'll need sort of bank statements, sort of SA302s, all of that sort of stuff. So if it were sort of, if I was on the investor side of the fence, I'd have some sort of Dropbox or shared folder or some sort of area where I would keep all my documentation, so I could just ping it across to my broker. It's sort of up-to-date information, and then that speeds up the process for us. It sort of cuts down on the communication. In terms of what you guys are looking at in terms of structuring, obviously everybody's different, but a very popular sort of method is you setting up a limited company, and then you would be acquiring property through that limited company.
So yeah, you said something quite interesting. This is like to be ready to ask for funding. So what are other things people can do to speed up the, getting the money process, getting the lending, getting...
I mean, yeah, so being organized. So the more back and forth we have with you guys, the more back and forth we're sort of having with the lender. If we can see, if you've got all the project information, if you've got all your personal information, if you've got sort of very thorough due diligence sheet as well, that helps us speed that process up. That helps us get you your funding quicker. And as well, it gives the lender more confidence that, this person knows what they're doing. And there is a sort of, the lenders are certainly easing in terms of first-time landlords. There are a lot more available products. They are becoming a lot more flexible because they understand that just because sort of you haven't necessarily got a property portfolio, you might be very successful in your own right with your own business. So therefore we can paint this background picture. And remember, we're dealing with commercial lenders. So it's very relationship based. We can have a conversation with them, and their criterias are flexible when they want them to be, but very rigid when they don't.
Yeah. And I'm guessing the relationship then helps them be flexible or rigid.
Yes, of course, and yeah, the situation as well. So we would never be put off with their criteria. Obviously, they're not going to can change their criteria, but sometimes we can get exceptions.
Any things you don't do or you can't help people with?
I mean, I deal specifically with investors, so I don't do homeowner stuff. That's not my bag. I don't sort of like that. I don't enjoy that. So anything sort of investor funding that we can, as a company at 978 Finance, we can sort that out for you.
So that's interesting. So what's the relationship? It's not your brokerage. You work for these guys, but the cool thing is people have got the entry point through you and your expertise. But then the actual, like all the operation side of making a churn, you've got a lot of capacity in the
absolutely.
background. Yeah,
we've got a great team. We've got a great team. So we've got great case managers. We're sort of getting stuff through very, very quickly. Of course, there's always sort of the ones that that drag their feet a bit in terms of the project itself and the funding itself.
Mhm.
But generally speaking, we're getting stuff through for investors. There's some great AVM products out at the minute. So for those that aren't familiar with what an AVM is, it's an automated valuation method. So they're available at the minute for buy-to-let mortgages. So what that is it essentially gives you a desktop valuation. So it removes that physical valuation aspect. So our record for getting a case through to legals at the minute is 20 hours and 4 minutes, which
Mhm.
is quite phenomenal given that
Yeah.
some take months to get through to that
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Yeah. And then do you help with like restructuring? Like people have got portfolios and maybe they want restructuring the debt structure, pull money out of it to
Yeah.
go and invest over.
Yeah, we can sort of we can come up with ways the way you can best utilize your funds. Absolutely.
Security and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can organise maybe a hunting license. Some lenders offer that, so it's basically it's a ready to go facility,
Mhm.
but you would obviously need enough of a portfolio running in the
Yeah.
background. We can organise, I suppose, second charge bridging, where we
Mhm.
borrow some of the equity out of your existing portfolio, and then you can utilise that to sort of
Mhm.
purchase other projects and other properties. So you don't actually physically
Yeah.
refinance
Yeah.
the property; you just borrow the money and then
Against.
pay it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And that's really cool. So we'll come back maybe at the end. I'll ask you to share your details. If people have got questions around mortgages, we can reach out to you.
Yeah.
And I know you are a really good, gateway and advisor for this. And you say how it is, so it's quite why I quite like you professionally as well.
Yeah, I mean, if I think that it's not quite sort of going to work in its current format, then you know, I mean we can have that
Mm.
conversation and we can look at trying to make it work, or maybe
Mhm.
go on to something else.
So property and Poppadoms, not, what did we say the other day? Non-stop deals with Property Filter Spicy Sauce, the
Yes,
hottest, what was it? The
spiciest collaboration.
spiciest collaboration in the property industry.
Hmm.
So how did you end up, talking about properties around curries and stuff?
So I got a bit fed up with networking events in their current format. I thought these networking events are not networking events. You're just turning up and getting spoken at for 3 hours. And the networking opportunities are actually very minimal. And I
But
just wasn't having fun at them.
mhm. But
Um,
this is also from a place and a context where you run these meetings and
oh yeah,
and
absolutely. So I was stoked.
and a place of where you were grateful from what they brought to you, but it's just you kind of outgrown them a bit.
Absolutely. So, and this is, and I must, yeah, caveat. This is not a sort of dig at any other networking event. So, I hosted Stoke-on-Trent Pin for, I think it was two or 3 years, something like that. I can't
Hmm.
remember. But I public speaking. I couldn't do it. I was petrified of it. I couldn't even stand. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a pin meeting, but I'm not sure if they still do the 20-second pitch thing. I couldn't even do that. Like I was absolutely petrified, could not do it, did not want to do it, had no interest in doing it. So then I took over the meeting as, I suppose, progression for me. So I was forced into a position where I needed to public speak. I had to public speak. So I did that for sort of 2 or 3 years. I came away and I thought, and this is not necessarily just PIN, I'd gone to a lot of other networking events, and I just felt that there was it could be improved upon a little bit. I thought I was sort of seeing people outside, they were looking miserable about having to go in. And I just thought, no, I'd like to have fun in what I do. I like to have a laugh. I like to enjoy myself. Of course, be professional, but also have fun at the same time. And you can absolutely do that. So I thought, well, everybody loves a curry. So I thought I'll start up a little curry meeting. So
You,
I
you,
started.
you used to go for a curry after the meeting. That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then there was that's how sort of you mean the meeting in itself, because Stoke-on-Trent's not really a prominent location, but we had a very good attendance at Stoke Pin because I'd sort of bothered to build that rapport with people. I said, look, let's go for a curry, let's have a laugh, let's get to know each other properly. So that made sure that people were coming back month on month. And then when I stepped down from that, I thought, well, the curry, you mean everybody loves the curry. The curry nights were decent. So I thought I'll just start up a curry meeting. So it was in November 2022. I had 8 people at that first meeting. Fast forward 12 months to November 2023, I had 100 people at that meeting. Then I had 2 meetings in December of 2023, and today I have 26 live meetings across the country with 2 online.
The takeaway nights, yeah.
Takeaway night and profit and Poppadoms. So that's a coaching night.
Interesting.
That's
Okay.
this Monday.
And so, what do you? How can you like? That's quite incredible, you know, from this innovation kind of idea. Like, how did it grow and stick so much? You know.
I mean, I sort of around, because like I said, there was 8 people at the first meeting. I don't think we had one at the Christmas of 2022. January, I think we had 13 at that meeting. I come to April and May, and it was really starting to get quite busy. But not only was it starting to get quite busy, I had people coming from quite far out of the area that had heard about it. So then it came to summer, and I had a lot of people coming at that point. But I had people coming from I had somebody come from Lancaster, I had somebody come from Newcastle upon Tyne, I had somebody come from Ashford in Kent, someone from Bristol, and they were all coming from all over. And I had one woman that would religiously, month on month, come up from Swindon. And I thought, well, that's an indicator. Mm-hmm. If people are coming from all over the country to this meeting, I thought there's obviously a need for it and a want for it. So
sorry, James, when you sort of started, did you think of it's going to be a big thing, or?
No, I'd be completely honest. I started it up because I was still going through a very, very tough time with the divorce and all the rest of it. And I just wanted to get out there. And I started it up. It's as much for my benefit in terms of sort of getting out there and interacting with other people as much as I did for theirs. But I thought, if I can create something fun, then that will take away somebody else that's having a bit of a troubled situation and just put a smile on their face for a couple of hours. And that was my sort of ethos behind it. And I thought, if we can do a bit of business as well, I thought happy days. So but it snowballed. And I just thought, at the point where I started scaling, I thought I've got to be comfortable with failing. Mm-hmm. But I thought this is going to go one or two ways. It's either going to sort of take off or it's just going to collapse. And I thought either way I'm happy, because I thought if I don't do it, it's that what if? What if I'd have done it? What if I'd have done that? But I thought, right, I've just got to go for it, and whatever happens, happens.
Can you talk a bit about because you touched on this, but about the therapeutic aspect of it, you know, therapeutical, you know, if I pronounce it well, aspect of it. You say you were in a bit of a difficult place, and then you created this positive thing, and then in some ways, like, you got stuck into this work of like going and having this impact, and it sort of picked you up, you know, like it gave you a purpose and stuff. Can you talk about like how, like, the place you were and how the work into this, you know, helped you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, I suppose, very cathartic for me. Obviously, you know, I mean, I've got my daughters, I've got my son, and that is a huge source of joy for me. However, I thought I need to get back on my feet, because, like I said, I've had a really acrimonious divorce, and I had literally lost everything during that process. So I thought, like, back in that November 2022, I was really, really in the pits.
Yeah.
And I just thought, right, I just need to get up, and I just need to put one foot in front of the other. And I just need to keep showing up. And then it just, like I say, it's just started to snowball. And I think it's very important that sometimes people can get a little bit too far ahead of themselves and miss that starting point. So it was very important for me personally that I just sort of turned up, showed up, and it was because I was feeling I wasn't feeling great, I'll be completely honest, and it was just a day by day situation for me. And then I sort of started turning up, day in, day out, and then that sort of started to gain pace. But I suppose I let go, or however you want to sort of frame it or refer to it. I let go of the attachment of like this has to work, or if it doesn't work, then I was just like, look, what will be with
Mm-hmm.
this. And if you can make enough people smile and enough people have a good time on every month, then they'll keep coming back. And that's what happened. They kept coming back. They kept having a good time. And that's why, I think the meetings are so popular, because it is fun. You're not being
Mm-hmm.
aggressively sold to. You're actually getting a networking opportunity. You're getting value from the meetings. You've got people like yourself, Guillaume, speaking at the meetings. And also you're getting fed. And it's a lovely, lovely, lovely meal. Like last night, we had a wonderful meal.
Yeah. Lovely. I don't really know what are the names of the stuff on the menu, so
I'm an expert
I'm
now.
chancing it every time. But yeah, and then who would you say attends Property and Poppadom?
We have a vast spectrum of people. So the main thing that the hosts are told to do is make everybody feel welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're new or whether you're experienced, we have people that are vastly experienced, huge portfolio landlords, down to like the gentleman that was sat opposite us last night.
Yeah.
Doesn't completely inexperienced.
Yeah. But next to him is a guy with a 30 million portfolio at 33 or something.
Exactly. So it's and not only that, you get the service providers there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're attracting lots of
Solicitors and
conveyancers, decent estate agents, letting agents, architects, all the people that are really, really, really important in your ability to complete on transactions quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes down from everything to a sourcing agent up to your broker. If you've got every box ticked and they're a decent professional, they're hardworking and they're knowledgeable, then you will be able to complete those transactions quickly or quicker.
Yeah, I find it quite, really quality, people. So it's very much one to go, and it's and then people have got different personalities, So
Yeah.
like there's the one to many, one to one, and you can go a lot deep. It's not like you're walking around, tapping on someone's shoulder and listening for 5 minutes, figuring out, oh shit, I'm stuck in this conversation now. It's not really what I wanted. Move to another one. And it seems like over dinner, like with quality people, you can go a lot deeper on things, and it's not.
I do find that everybody is far more relaxed around food. It makes the conversation flow. Everybody's sort of a lot more open. Everybody's a lot more welcoming, and it's that whole sharing food situation. And I think it works brilliantly. Like I say, the meetings are of value as well. We're getting some amazing speakers, and the talks, the presentations, the speakers are told to be short, impactful, and make it of value. And I think all the speakers are really hitting the notes.
Jenny's asking, what venues do you use to organize these, and is there a cost basically for dinner, supper?
Yes. So basically, it's actually really, really difficult to find the right venue, because what we're looking for a separate room. So we want a separate room where we can put our projector up, our screen up, or some of the venues already have these facilities, and we are sort of in there, and it's our own room, it's our own area, and of course you've got to pay for your food. You can put through the website. I can put the link into the chat box at some point, but it's propertyandpoppadoms.co.uk if anybody wants to have a look. But yeah, I mean, we've got sort of, like I say, 26 venues and counting. So yeah, we're looking forward to sort of scaling further.
That's awesome. And so in terms of scaling, and so do you want to go back a little bit on, because last year we organized this property meeting host summit, and you kindly came on one of the panels, and someone asked, James, like how do you do all this? Like what's the hack? What's the secret, the system you use, to manage all the bookings and promoting and like what's the secret, like because I really want to have it all automated and run on wheels for me for my meeting, and I love the answer you gave to the gentleman that time.
Yeah, well, I just basically said I work hard.
Yeah,
And
it was the ultimate secret to health, wealth, and
yeah,
happiness. You know,
I just said, look, I get up every single day and I make sure I put a shift in. And there's no secret formula to it. There's no, like I say, I'm not necessarily a clever individual, but I turn up, I work hard, and I make sure I get stuff done. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I sat in front of, you could say, arguably every single person in that room, because of my circumstances at that time, was more successful than I in terms of business. But I stood up at the front of the room and I said, I'm going to create the fastest growing property networking event in the UK. Some of them sort of rolled their eyes a little bit. I clocked, but what have I done? 12 months
mm,
later, I've created the fastest growing property networking event in the UK.
yeah, yeah, and it's all credit to you and your secret to health, wealth, and happiness.
Yeah, get up, work
Putting
hard, live on
work
coffee.
work hard, putting a shift in every day.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's been really awesome and insightful, mate. I really appreciate you taking the time, going, under the opening the lead for us, understanding, like the story, the background. And so, do you mind putting in the chat the link to, like, maybe you have an email or something for people to
yeah,
reach out if you want to speak mortgages with you, and then the meetings as well, the property and Poppadoms, because you got 26 there up and down the country, so there's
yeah,
bound to be one anywhere for everyone. And then maybe what I can show people sort of service provider area here. So if you go into get more at the bottom left here, and then here you've got property networking, and this is the start of a growing list. You've got now a link here where you can go and book book a dinner with the guys at Property and Poppadoms, and you can see like there's one tonight if you're in Manchester, there's another one tonight if you're in Northampton, and they run pretty much everywhere up and down the country. So yeah, go and have a look, meet some interesting people, and yeah, I promise you won't regret. Thanks
I'm
a
the
lot.
main speaker at Manchester tonight, so you might want to avoid that meeting.
Was that? You are the main speaker, right? Okay. Yeah, go on. If you are on Manchester, go and have dinner with James. That's a good invite. So yeah, thanks for putting your details. So phone number, emails, if you want to speak mortgages, and you got the website again for the meetings. Do you have any sort of closing sentiments? Like some lesson learned or anything you want to share with
I think that certainly the these past few years for me have been amazing in some aspects, but really the worst time of my life in other aspects. I think it's important, as difficult as it may be for you during those difficult times, just get out of bed. You don't have to achieve anything spectacular during that day. Get out of bed and just try and do one thing, and then build on that one thing. Because then what you'll find is you'll start to get into the routine of the one thing, and you can then build on top of that, and then on top of that, and then on top of that, and all of a sudden, the dark place that you found yourself in, you're no longer in it anymore, and you're sort of looking back on it as a lesson learned.
yeah, yeah, and you're out with 26 meetings and
Yeah,
growing, giving smiles on hundreds of people every month
absolutely.
up and down the country. So thanks so much, James. It was super cool speaking with you today. I
Thank
hope everyone appreciated as well. So yeah, just have another great week, everyone, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Okay, bye bye.